Welcome to Beyond the Music. I'm so happy to be here with Hilary Kingsley, member of the Quad City Symphony. We were just discussing for 12 seasons, or almost finished your 12th season. Uh, Hilary, you'll be playing on our up close concert coming up. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Brian.
So, this is a special performance. I'm wondering maybe what excites you most about this up close performance. Is there a particular piece or something you're looking forward to really sharing with the audiences on it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, a couple of different things. The focal the main piece of this concert is called Different Trains by Steve Reich.
Mhm.
And so it's worth talking about this piece a little bit. I think it requires some preparing the audience for what what they can listen for. Let's see. The Kronos Quartet commissioned a piece from Steve Reich, and he was at this point, in his career, he was interested in new piece of technology in the 80s called a sampling keyboard. And so you could sample different voice recordings, you could sample pretty much anything, and then, he would use that in his composition. So he wanted to do a new piece using human speech um, and for string quartet. So he was kind of trying to figure out what speech would he actually use. And the idea sort of occurred to him that he was an American Jewish kid growing up in the 1940s, and his parents were split up at the time, I think living in New York and Los Angeles. So he would, with
Mhm.
governess, ride trains between those two cities. It was a 4-day trip, super long. Um, so anyway, he was kind of considering being a child during World War II as a Jew and imagining had he lived in Europe, he could have been riding very different trains.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
right, and so so that's sort of the inspiration in terms of trains. He uses the strings to basically mimic train sounds. We've kind of got this like chugging along music that mostly the violins are doing all the time, but moreover, he uses the sampling keyboard to take. I think he got recordings of several different people. One, his governess, who was still alive, talking about the journey. A railroad porter who is sort of calling out the different trains and things.
Mhm.
But most importantly, he got archived recordings of Holocaust survivors talking about their experiences. Now, what he takes from all of these clips are just little snippets of the spoken, spoken word, and uses the strings to mimic the pitch and the rhythm of what they're saying. So, and they're just little sound bites, from New York to Los Angeles, something like that. And then, and it's usually audiences can listen, listen for, it's mostly the viola and the cello who are going to be doing that, but it sort of goes around the group. So, yeah, there's a lot of, that's probably the most important thing are the voices that you'll hear. But then you will hear obviously the train sounds, and there are even like the train whistles that you'll hear and the
Yep.
violins like that too. What's also kind of interesting is that it's so we're sorry if this was unclear. We're playing along with all of these pre-recorded things
Yeah,
in
a
one
pre-recorded
tape.
track. Yeah.
Yeah. So recorded tracks. So there's the voices. There are actual recordings of trains and the whistles, but there are also three other pre-recorded string quartets. So it's this string sounds layered on string sounds, and it's just everything is doubled up, and it's really rich and it's really interesting and energetic and yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
One other thing Steve Reich said in an interview that I watched of him about this piece was that he really wanted to get interviews of real survivors because he felt that not having personally lived through the Holocaust, it was sort of presumptuous for him to even talk about the subject. So there's this idea that he's taking real voices, from voices from people who actually did
Right.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an incredible piece of music, and I remember as a much younger musician when I first heard it, and
Yeah.
it made a huge impact. I mean,
Yeah.
just really, really powerful, and I can't wait to hear it at the Figge with you all playing and with the
Yeah.
track and everything. It's going to be really
I
fun.
can't wait to perform it. It's exciting, and already trying to practice along with the track and get all these different tempo changes and everything. It's a little tricky, but it's exciting, and it's really good music. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that has to be another level. Like, not a, you're playing with your peers, but you're also playing with this electronic track, which is rigid and won't change, right?
Exactly. Right. I mean, if anyone has this experience of, being practicing music and trying to use a metronome, and all of my students go through this. They say, how do I get good at using a metronome? It just gives you a constant beat. And it's really difficult to play with something that is completely unforgiving and will not adjust to you. Right. So basically, like we have to be completely faithful to that recording because it's not going to listen to us.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's fascinating. So, of course, this is string quartet, chamber music. That's what we do on Up Close. We do chamber solo music. So, what is it like to play chamber music? I mean, obviously, with the QCSO, it's large orchestra, many people on stage. What's it like with just a small group? And do you love it? What do you love most about it?
I love it. I do. It's really, really fun. Well, and depending on the people that you're playing with, it could, if you think of any small sort of group project or thing that you're working on, it really depends on the personalities. I'm very much looking forward to working with the people that we'll be playing with. So I have no worries here. But, you don't have one obvious authority figure. You don't have a conductor. So you are truly having to discuss what is our interpretation of the music. How are we going to do it this time? And you might have different ideas, and you just have to decide, okay, we'll go with your idea this time, and and how are we going to do bowings? How are we going? Do we need to align those things? But so there's how you coordinate with different people is really engaging and really exciting, but also just because you are the only one on your part. And of course, this is something that wind players do a lot more than I do as a string player. But, and in the QCSO, I am one of maybe 12 first violins, right? And so my goal in that setting is to blend in and to, yes, be emotive, be expressive, and serve the music, but it's a little bit more militaristic, if you will. We're all kind of, we're trying to. It's sort of about, you're subjecting yourself to a higher, aim, and it's not really about your opinion. In a string quartet, my individual voice is so much more important, and it's really important that I have convictions about the music and feelings about the music and an expressive sound, and that I care about the specific colors that I'm making, and does that line up with if there's any text or any meaning embedded in the music already. So those are things about,
So there's a lot, I have a question about preparing for a performance like this, which I think you've kind of already answered a bit, but like that there must be a lot of, as you're sharing, a lot of thought that goes into how you're preparing, not beyond just the mechanical, like, how do I play this passage? How do I play these notes? And like the meaning behind it and the artistry about it.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. I'll give maybe a quick example. So one of the other pieces on the program that we're doing is a string quartet arrangement of Schubert's Erlking.
Yeah.
And if folks don't know that lead, it's a German song. It kind of takes this German folk idea of like I think it's the Elf King, who's sort of a spirit that inhabits dark forests and tries to lure children to their death. Very dark, very terrible.
Really uplifting.
Yeah, really uplifting, exactly. But I think it's actually kind of a really appropriate piece in a way to pair with a program that's largely about the Holocaust, because we have and it's in song, it's a father and a son riding through the woods, and you hear the galloping and the string quartet and everything, but it's all narrated. You have, so a lot of my part in the first violin is the part of the child, the son, crying out to his father, saying, "Father, Father, the Elf King is behind me, and he's going to get me." But then also the Erl King sort of beguiling and trying to convince the child to come with him. And yeah, so I'm having to then look at the text and decide how do
Right.
I want to play this particular part, and then, what is the tone? Yeah, exactly. What is the meaning and how does that influence, how I play it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between like I can physically play this music versus like I'm delivering an artistic performance that
Right.
says something, right? Which
Exactly.
is hard to do. It's
Mhm.
hard to just perform it, regardless of
Yeah,
understanding the music,
it is. It is. Yes.
So I always think that's great for our audiences to hear a little bit about because
Yeah.
they love learning about how musicians prepare and all of that. So I guess the last question I would have, and one thing we've been asking our performers on Beyond the Music all season is there anything you wish people or the public understood more about the life of a professional musician or anything about it?
My goodness. I mean, there are probably so many things, but something something that comes to mind, and I think particularly in this season of March and April, I'm just so wildly busy. But this is what comes to mind is that we're kind of always being pulled in a million different directions. We have to be really good at task management and, you know,
Yeah.
uh, dividing up our time and figuring out, I mean, at the moment, for instance, I'm working on this up close concert. I'm also working on Mahler 6 for Masterwork, or sorry, Mahler 6 for Masterwork 6.
Hmm.
I will have later in the season, another concert with another orchestra, and then I'm going on vacation because you need a little break. But it's also, and then other music for, Easter's coming up, and I've got church music that I'm looking at, and then there are my students, and then there's this, and then there's that, and so, but yet I sit down, and when I'm practicing Schubert, I need to be practicing Schubert. You have to be completely focused on that one task, and then
In
when
the
I'm
moment. Yeah.
different trains, I'm all in on different trains. And yeah, you can't act like you're being pulled in a million different directions. You have to then take your energy and just focus it, in all these ways. So I love that because I think it's really exciting. I get to do so many different things with my time, and I am definitely not sitting in. It's not your standard office job. Let's just say,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, there's many benefits to learning music, whether you're a professional or you're not a professional, or you're a young student or you're an adult or whatever. But that ability to like exist in the moment, which I think is hard for people today for all the reasons we know. That's one of the beautiful things that music can deliver for us, and both as a performer, but also as a listener, where you
yeah.
just exist and you're not, on your phone or doing, whatever.
Completely present. You're completely present, and it's just
Yeah,
one of the
absolutely.
that I think has always been the thing that I have most loved about playing the violin and about music in
That's
general.
awesome.
It's this completely engaging sensory, tactile, oral, visual
It's
experience.
every part of your brain.
Every part of your brain, and the extent to which you give a powerful performance is is the extent to which you are able to be fully present to it.
That's
And
great.
yeah, I love that.
Well, I think we'll end on that. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are looking forward to the concert, April 18th at the
That is
Figge Art
correct.
Museum. So
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Brian.
you're
Yeah.
welcome. Thanks for joining.